Welcome back, everyone, to the Black Box, episode 5. Joined today by just the regular group of hosts. So Tamm, Zip Flame, and Witty Phrase. We were talking a little bit before we kicked off the episode about how we have just not a lot of great things to say and are just in the mood to bitch. Listen, my complaints are run the gamut here, but I mean, all in all, I have not been in the game for a bit, primarily because of work volume and family life stuff. But the state of the game and how CIG has, in my opinion, completely bungled several things, going back a few months now, but everything around Invictus and the squadron launch and rumors of delays and confirming or not confirming and a bunch of stuff has not given me the motivation that I have often had to fight through the personal scheduling stuff in order to get on. And so that has been a bit of the demotivator for me, is how all that is shaken out. So, like, you know, there's stuff I want to talk about is CIG's handling of the Odin situation, again, the rumors of the Squadron 42 delay, and then just maybe we just talk about like what the fuck ridiculousness it is that, like, if you're going to delay your game every time a competitor potentially could be in your way, like, what are you doing here? 4.8 itself was not great for me the couple of times that I was on post 4.8 dropping. So, you know, I know, I think I've seen a few people in the org to be like, oh, it's not that bad right now, but I've seen lots of issues with it. I also want to talk about just the utterly embarrassing, like, bootlicking fest that is the Star Citizen subreddit at the moment, because that'll just make me feel better to shit on those people for a little bit. But those are just some of my frustrations. I mean, like, CIG's silence after crossing the $1 billion mark, and it really just feels like, and you guys have more context and experience with this than I do, because you've been around through other moments where things felt good and then suddenly your dreams were crushed. But I'm feeling particularly crushed by CIG's handling of a lot of this stuff right now. Santa has been kind of, the beard has been pulled off of just the guy in the mall here, and I'm feeling a little bit disheartened. And so that's my overview of what I want to talk about for the next hour. Zip, however, I'm sure is in a much better place than Tamurai, because he doesn't have to, and he doesn't need this to escape from the clutches of children. So he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be quite as disappointed by this. But I don't know. Where do you guys want to begin? What do you think is a good place to start? Why don't we kick off where we last left off? Right, as a very brief recap, we were midpoint in Invictus, a couple of days left. Still, we were joined by who was in here with us? We had Cyril and Pac, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah. And so Pac did a great overview of all the issues with the Ironclad, which is a huge problem in my view for CIG.
Are those even fully resolved, or
no,
still?
Not that I'm aware of. I know they pushed some patch to try to fix it, and I don't think they actually fixed it. And we were just talking, and again, this happens to, I feel like this happens to us a lot. We were saying that night that no one had yet heard anything about the Odin Super Happy Club. And the very next day is when those emails started to go out. And so maybe that's a place to start, is what the actual fuck happened with this, and what could or should CIG have done differently. Zip, do you want to, before you get into your personal gripe fest, do you want to do the audience the favor of kind of laying out what happened and what kind of the general frustration is before we get into your personal
My gripes.
your personal gripe with CIG.
Well, so I think it's important to kind of lay out the way people kind of perceived it when they first kind of pushed the idea of the Odin Founders Club. A lot of people expected it to be if not entirely giving you just direct access to the store page to buy it on launch day, because that was the way I interpreted it. If you were in the club, you'd have a secret back door to be able to go and pick up your Odin, or at the very least to make it so you're not having to F5 war. That was the impression going into it. You had to write a whole essay explaining why you deserve to spend an absorbent amount of money, the equivalent of a couple months worth of rent, to buy this ship. And then suddenly everyone just started getting these emails. Everyone who submitted, no matter how silly it was, got into this club.
And if I may interject for just a moment, right? This is not just something that people divined out of nowhere. Like CIG sent a message saying that they were requesting people to submit essays to essentially be considered for a chance to be given access to this club, which was going to be determined to decide who gets to purchase this expensive ship. So the ship that we all kind of expect was going to cost around $4,000 to $5,000. You have to submit an essay to get that privilege. And they said in the email, like, they would also give some consideration to captains who play a lot, just like there were just supposed to be some other things, but it was made to seem like there was kind of a competition to get into this club, to be given the ability to access this ship. And they, in the way that CIG by design, I think, writes these very ambiguous messages, it was unclear what exactly that meant, but I think it was heavily implied, if you were in the club, that you had cleared some exclusivity hurdle. And that led to a lot of people thinking, as you're saying, Zip, right, that you would be able to purchase without having to go through the standard F5 war. It didn't explicitly say it, but that was kind of, I think, what the implication was. Yeah, Tamm.
So to clarify, it was.
Are you clarifying the clarification?
It was.
Actually,
it did give you exclusive access, because if you weren't in the club, you got no access. We just didn't think that they would do that, because that's stupid. So just to clarify, it did give you exclusive access that no one else got to the ship. It was just the only access to the ship for anyone.
And it turned out, as Zip was then saying, like, there was the essay didn't matter. It turned out to be a glorified filtering mechanism or lottery entrance mechanism, so that they could, quote unquote, attempt to filter out bots or resellers or whatever, because people who submitted literal joke essays that said, I will not buy this ship, don't give me access, or people who there was a lot of meme entries. It didn't matter.
And they got in, yeah.
Some of those were selected. Some people who wrote very lengthy, detailed essays about their org and the purpose for the ship did not get selected. It was all over the place, which just made it abundantly clear the essay didn't matter, that nothing that you did about that mattered. They just chose who they were going to choose. Yeah.
Well, and to be clear, the Odin itself as a ship, I think, is awesome. But what they kind of set up around it was just FOMO to the utter extreme. I know we have a general kind of idea of how many they sold. Was it something like 2,500? I think is the number that was kind of thrown around. People did
something like that. Yeah, a few people backed into it based on the
changes
the
napkin
in the funding, and based on the changes in funding amounts total and the price on the Odin. You can come up with a rough estimate, give or take, a couple hundred, based on the difference in credit and war bond pricing.
Well, and to be clear, if you wanted to buy one war bond, it was extremely easy. There was no comparatively. Well, there was like 10, 15 minutes at times after the wave when they would still be available. So you didn't really, if you showed up on the hour and took your time, sipped your coffee, you would have had no issue checking out. If you were trying to go for the non-war bond, however, it was virtually impossible. I don't know what kind of numbers they had. We have no way of gauging that, but we're talking like on the hour it was out of stock. You would see a blip, and that's about it. I don't know what people do to bought these to get them, but yeah.
This felt like, and by the lead up to it, the messaging from CIG on this felt like one of those things where it didn't actually matter what was happening in the real world. They just had something they wanted to happen, which was they did not want people to be able to make use of store credit for this. And they, again, this is speculative because I don't have any insight to this, but listen, we all know how this goes. Like, they put out a message saying, oh, due to the overwhelming interest, because we received so many submissions, we made extra war bond versions of this available. Because they just, it was obviously a tool for them to get past that $1 billion mark, to hit a landmark, or to hit a milestone, not a landmark, in what they wanted their funding to be for the year. And so it was very obviously, and I don't give a shit what anybody says, like, your opinion is wrong. It was very obviously constructed in such a way to only be about the war bond sale of this thing. And so I would not be surprised if it was literally a handful of store credit chips were available.
Just to say that it was available, could have been one or two.
Yeah, and we'll never know, because no matter how much they and the bootlickers on Reddit talk about this as being the most transparent and open development, and that's why we have to suffer through all this bullshit. They will never be transparent about the only thing that actually matters here, which is the ship sales. Like, this is just, this whole fiasco got us much closer to the concept that, like, CIG is a marketing company that happens to be like making a game, and not a game company that sells ships.
Well, and it is interesting that you say that, because
you work for marketing and that's your job, and you're upset that I called you out.
I feel like that was like utterly demonstrated in the launch of the Ironclad.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh, absolutely,
yeah.
Because
the Ironclad Odin thing is a 1-2 punch of pure we don't give a fuck. Sorry, I'm interrupting because I'm like hot about this,
good.
But like, you're right. The Ironclad was a like in-game physical manifestation of the right hand middle finger, whereas the Odin sale was like the left hand middle finger. So it was just boom, boom, like, we sell stuff and you just have to take it.
Well, it's because they could have, like, no one would have been happy if they're like, hey, so it's incoming Invictus, and then Invictus hits and they're like, fuck off, it's not ready, right? No one's going to enjoy that because they want to fly their fucking Ironclad. However, if it's not ready, it's not ready. And
I'd respect it at least.
It's a, half-baked potato, And so, even if they're like, hey, well, we want people to be able to see it because it's clearly in a state where you can get in it and check it out, and like the buttons work, and you know what I'm saying? They could have put it on the showroom floor and be like, hey, it's not ready yet, but here's a version where you can walk around it, check it out, to where A, that attracts people to the showroom floor, which is generally something that they want. B, people who own the ship get to check out their ship and be like, damn, this shit's cool. Okay, I'm kind of interested. And C, they sell more of them because people are like, this looks fucking sick and I want one. Like, that's not hard. And the only downside to that is they can't raise the fucking price because the ship is not flyable yet. And instead, they're like, hey, we're going to do all of that, and we're going to change the ship to say flyable so that we can raise the price by $150, which I don't really care how much they raise the price by, from the perspective of, like, it's a big ship, it's in line with other big ships, whatever. Like, all their stuff's overpriced. We can dicker about the price. I have a problem with them raising the price when the ship is a broken mess. And what was it, 2 weeks after? They just did a patch on Friday still broken mess. Thanks, guys. I'm so glad that, because I'm not saying it'd be good if they release it and it's a broken mess, and then 2 weeks later they're like, okay, boom, patched, everything's fixed. Sorry about that. That would be bad, but that would be like, okay, a little bit more understandable. But
it was
it's
at
like,
least close.
Nope, it's still broken mess. Yeah. Like somehow QA missed something or other, like the differences of the live environment versus cool, But that's not what we got. It's like, nope, it's a broken mess. 2 weeks later, oh man, massive patch, like took forever for them to dump that crap out, and it's still a broken mess. It's like, so you have a bunch of people who have a very expensive spaceship, or two if they have both, and they're just broken waste heaps that just sit in your hangar because it's like it's not reliably useful. People coming out of the woodwork like, well, excuse me, I can get in it and I can fly it out of my hangar. Yes, you can. I'm happy for you. That's great. Go quantum anywhere. Well, I managed to successfully. That's great. Go jump through a tunnel with it. I actually successfully. Okay, you and everyone else did that? No? Okay. I don't want to hear about it. Like, the thing's broken. Like, it may situationally work for some people some of the time. That's not a fixed working state. So it's like the majority of people who have one, and I am one of those people, have a functional paperweight in their hangar. And that's something that CIG knew was a functional paperweight and chose to increase the price on and list as flyable and sell it with an increased price so that they can make more money. And it's like, guys, like, I don't have a problem with CIG making money. I have a problem with marketing making their decisions at the expense of the game, which is what I think that is. And I think the Odin sale was, although obviously the Odin sale, like it's a concept ship. So to a degree that's less impactful on the game as a playable game entity currently. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, especially recently, they've just been really showcasing like, hey, marketing's in the driver's seat and no one else matters. And it's just like, that's great until your game doesn't work and you keep doing that. And it's obvious that you're doing that. Then it's just like, okay, nobody likes that.
Well,
like,
my main concern with that is like, sure, there's a lot of community feedback complaints on Reddit and Spectrum, a lot of people who are echoing a lot of what you're saying, probably not enough. But the only feedback these companies actually care about is how much revenue is coming in. And if you look at how much money they made, message received, they're doing great. They continue doing what they've already been doing. So this isn't something I expect a lesson to be learned. This will happen again.
Yeah, it's man, like, this is just one of those things where I feel like either on here on this podcast or just in general when we're talking to each other, like, we are not CIG apologists. We are pretty directly critical of shit that they do that is not okay. But at the same time, we like the game and we are subscribed to its potential. So I think we are a group, and other people on our org as well, where like we absolutely don't pretend that these flaws don't exist both in the company and in the game. But we know what we sign up for. Everyone kind of sets their tolerance threshold based on how much they're willing to spend on the game and how much time they're willing to put in, and that's kind of how we calibrate that. But I feel like there is this very loud and vocal contingent of people, not us, but just people in general, who again view this game as a scam. Like, it's not a real game. It's not playable. It's a scam to collect money. And I have been fairly vocal, including very recently in a video that we made about whether or not this is a real game, saying it's not a scam. There is a game here. Like, you may not like what's being made. You may not like the way it's being made, but there are games being made here, and you can get in and play it in whatever state. This kind of shit does not help. And I mean, it directly feeds, and I think accurately, that narrative. Like, yeah, we know they're making stuff. Maybe it's not a scam, but it is a scum. Like, this is scummy. it's definitely a scummy thing to do. Like I had issues with the Ironclad, but I hadn't thought about it in the context in which you just laid that out, Tamm. And that's fucking terrible. Like, we're going to launch this. We tried to crash for an extra day in advance of launching this patch to try to fix that and get this ship working. It failed. We still went ahead and pushed it and launched it anyway, knowing that it wouldn't work, knowing that it wouldn't be fixed in time. And then we're going to stay silent about all of this stuff until the refund windows have closed. That's the other piece that's making me really fucking pissed, is they're not talking about this as transparently or accurately as they should. Because I think it's true. Like, they want the 30-day refund windows to close so that they can actually book that revenue. Because right now it's basically pending transactions, right? They want to book it. They need that window to close. And like, they're not saying anything. And it's been a while. They've given very short little blurbs. Oh yes, we are aware of these issues. Great. Like, I'm aware of my ass itches right now, but if I don't scratch it, I'm not doing anything about it. So like, you have to tell us what the plan is. Like, why? It's just, I don't know. It feels to me like such a line has been crossed in the past 4 weeks in terms of how they are conducting themselves around this stuff that is very different than anything I've seen in my admittedly short tenure with the game.
I think they've been a pretty marketing heavy company for quite some time, but that's in conjunction with the game functioning, relatively normally. If that makes sense.
Yes, it's the confluence of factors that makes it bad.
Yeah. And I think my other issue with how things have been behaving, because I mean, like, there's bugs in live, a lot of bugs in live last I checked, and that's not great, and it makes it hard to want to get on, and like, it's like, look, I have very limited time window here where it's my time, and do I want to go fight bugs, or do I want to go fight bugs in Helldivers, like, as an funny example. But like, that's fine. That's relatively normal. It's, I would like it to be a bug-free experience, but whatever. It really hasn't been a bug-free experience ever. Cool. But like, the combination of the marketing, like, I got the impression, and I'm sure this isn't the case, and I don't mean to devalue the other teams at CIG who are actually putting in good work. I'm not trying to naysay them or devalue their efforts or anything like that, but like, the feeling I got as a player and as a backer was that they don't give a shit about anything other than marketing and making money. So it's like, hey, here's this shitty half done. It's not half done, but again, the sensation that I'm getting, here's this shitty half done piece of shit. I don't give a fuck that you can't quantum anywhere, which basically means it's a fucking worthless toaster, and that you'll fucking die randomly in the ship at different spots in the ship. Nobody cares about that. Price bump, give us your money. Which, to clarify, I already had the ship beforehand, so like, I didn't give them any money for that ship when they raised the price. But I'm just saying, like, that vibe, I don't like that. And then I don't like how when people have been complaining and people have been having issues with the state of the game, the state of how they're doing things, the lack of anything on Squadron, et cetera, they've been absolutely dead silent. And I think, Witty, I think your point about them holding their silence until refund period ends, I think that's on the money. Because if they say anything, and then all these people who have like a 5K spaceship go, huh, yeah, give me my 5K back, dude. Like, it's actually, I feel like that paints it in a worse light because that makes it seem like, and this is all supposition. I'm not saying this is the case or anything like that, but it makes it seem like we're going to get some bad news as soon as that refund window ends.
We are. They're not saying anything about Squadron until after that because this funding surge, I think, was predicated on people. This is being the last big event before what we all felt to this point was an inevitable Squadron 42 announcement. And now they've got to find a way to keep that funding despite knowing they have bad news coming. And that's again, not a scam, but it is scum.
I mean, go ahead.
Okay. On the subject of Squadron 42, this is entirely caused kind of what you're saying because they've gone radio silent, right? There's a lot of leaks and rumors going around that point heavily towards a Squadron delay. But as of 3 or 4 weeks ago, they had been saying that they still intend to launch it this year. And so I'd really like to know what's actually going on behind the scenes, because I do want to say the signs do seem to be pointing towards a delay. It's still not a guarantee yet. I still think Gamescom is a potential for an announcement. They've already said in the past that they want to do a much shorter marketing window for Squadron, and that would fall in that category. It'd be really short if they're launching in October. That's just a couple months from August to October. So that could still be in the cards, but with all of the stuff going, they read the forums, they read Reddit, Spectrum, they know kind of where people are at and how they feel. They should say something in some way to kind of, literally, if they said, hey, we're still on track for 2026, suddenly half of my concerns for the game and Squadron are alleviated. But they haven't done anything like that.
Would you would take it seriously if they came out and just said, yes, we're on track, game will release this year? You'd say, okay, I believe that.
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. I mean, and then if it does come out that it doesn't come out this year, the amount of crap that's going to be in their face because of that is going to be so much worse than if they were to just be honest and say, okay, we're not going to hit the target, or GTA, there's so many games releasing in the fall, we want Squadron to shine in its own light, we're going to launch it in January or February. I think it would be a lot worse for them to still outwardly say we're planning on 2026 when internally they're fully intending on a 2027. That would be blatantly a lie at that point.
It would be a lot. So historically, all of their delays have been like, hey, we're releasing next year or whatever, right? And then as they got towards that, it's like, oh shit, that's not going to happen because this, that, and the other, like in terms of like we're ran into some speed bumps, whatever. Suppose like with Squadron supposedly being feature complete, in polishing stages, stuff like that, like all these words where it's like there's the finish line and we can see it and we're like just final lap sort of vibes, right? If they came out and were like, yep, still on track to come out this year, in absence of, because I mean, all the like the rumors of them not coming out, there's nothing behind that. Like there's the one video that I can't think of his name. Yeah, that he did where he's like, oh yeah, I talked to some people, and I'm not going to say who or what job they do or whatever, which is like fair from a logic standpoint, but at the same time, it's like, look, I talked to some people too, and they said it's definitely coming tomorrow. You know, well, what I mean? Like anybody could say anything. Like
one thing about that though, like so I work in media. I'm not a media strategist, but I'm around crisis management related to people who say things on TV that they shouldn't say all the time. And this is not all that dissimilar. One of the great frustrations in having to respond to publicly disseminated incorrect information is that you do have to say something. And it unfortunately gives the advantage to people who just spew shit because as you said, Tamm, anybody can say anything, right? He can say this is a conjecture, but it's what I've heard, and he's not crossed the line and kind of truly lying. He's just kind of, implying heavily. To let that sit uncontested, unrefuted, and kind of that is then the prevailing narrative. To not say that is right, wrong, or otherwise then perceived as acquiescence. You are conceding that point because you've not responded to it, and it's part of what gives in my own kind of headcanon here additional support to the fact that they do not want to say it yet because they want to wait out that window. That's why this is all linked. Like they are all very disconnected things going on right now. The Odin issue, the Ironclad issue, the Squadron 42 and the buybacks thing, the state of the game, like it's all very much linked right now to the fact that in my view, CIG has more riding on this year than they have had in any prior year. Mm-hmm. And they are, I think, not prepared for this to go tits up when they inevitably drop that bomb.
Yeah. And that's where I was saying, like, if they came out tomorrow and were like, yeah, we're still on track, that would be that counter to videos like that. Because like I said, like that's the only thing that I've seen where anybody even said that they had evidence. Everybody else is just like, oh yeah, it's not here yet, so obviously it's not coming, or GTA is coming, so it's not coming either, or whatever bullshit. And I'm not saying speculation is bad. I'm just saying that, like, as far as I've seen, it's pretty much all speculation. And so if they came out and they're like, hey, it's coming, like based on what Zip said, where it's like, we're far enough along in the process and we're halfway through the year, right? So if you don't know, like if you're like, it's coming out this year, and it's like, that's only 6 months, dude. And if you don't know what you're fucking talking about for a 6 month time frame for something that's supposedly in final polish, like, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, CIG knows. Let's be clear about that.
No,
CIG as of today knows whether this game is coming out this year or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
The question is whether they choose to say something or not. That's the question.
I want to be clear though. It's not as though it would be very difficult for them. In, I think, at least a couple Star Citizen lives, they've had offhanded comments, like the most recent one where they're like, we're working towards all this extra stuff in 2026, including Squadron 42. I think that's the most recent official comment they've made, and correct me if I'm wrong. That kind of offhanded comment would be really easy for them to do. It's not something they haven't done several times already. The difference being there's all these rumors now that there weren't before. So it would not be hard for them to dispel them, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. And them not dispelling them kind of, I think, as Tamm is saying, kind of lends credence, or either Witty, to the fact that it may be legitimate.
Yeah, it's anyway, this is a bed of their own making, and they're going to need to lie in it. Like at some point, perfect isn't finished. You have to release the game, and it's either going to be good enough or it's not. Like there comes a point when you have to ship a product, and I'm so beyond like the people on Reddit that keep saying stuff like it'll be done when it's done, or like the one that fucking drives me, literally makes me want to like just run my head into a wall, is when people talk about Star Citizen's release, not Squadron, Star Citizen, and they're like, well, it's never going to be finished. It's always going to be evolving and updating and growing. I'm like, are you fucking being deliberately obtuse, or are you just that fucking stupid? Like, how do you get through life being that fucking dumb or lying to yourself? So, like, you can lie, like, don't, like, lie to yourself if you have to. Don't
you
fucking
Stockholm yourself with a video game.
But, like, don't try to fucking lie to me. Like, you know exactly what the point is that's being made when someone says, when are you going to ship a finished product? Not that the game can't change or evolve. I saw today a comparison to like, well, World of Warcraft is always releasing new content. Yeah, but the game was fucking done. a finished product that they could put in a box in a goddamn store was made, it was on the shelves, and it was sold. And people bought it and said, this is good enough. I'm going to keep playing it and paying for it month after month and year after year. You can't keep jerking everybody off eternally. Like, at some point, you got to put it in. I don't know if that's going to stay in the episode.
I don't know, but it's going to go on the friggin' soundboard.
You can't keep, like, you have to, it has to be done. Right. The other piece that I see on Reddit from people that fucking drives me nuts is, well, do you want it to just be done? Do you want it to be good? I want it to be done and good. Believe it or not, in the adult world, when you are doing something for a living, you occasionally have to do something that is complete and good and on time. I do not have to pick two of those. You have to get it done or you have failed. And I don't know what the consequence is if CIG says this project has failed, but that is a possibility that everybody who has given money to this has to accept. There is always going to be competition. There is always going to be a reason not to do it. You either stand behind your game and put it out there and hope it doesn't crash in front of an audience of millions, or give up. But the eternal sale of ships for a quest for eternal funding, that's not the game.
So I will say there is a delineation between Squadron and Star Citizen in terms of the sale of ships. Because like you mentioned the Odin being linked to, like, this is the last sale before Squadron, so it's like the last big, like, time to get ships. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't.
No. Sorry, like, just to clarify what that was. It was the last sale before Squadron, so it was the last, like, chance to generate, like, a massive funding to have that narrative going into the Squadron 42 release be like, you know, we crossed the $1 billion threshold, we released the game, like, that's the story that I thought they were trying to craft there. So they were using the Odin in concert with the Squadron or anticipated Squadron release to make the narrative about how basically successful the project has been.
Yeah, and they very well could be doing that, you know, but I don't know. I know that Chris Roberts is a perfectionist and all that crap, and he's historically had issues in, as far as I know, his entire professional life with deadlines and trying to perfect budgets, but like trying to perfect something that like most people are like, that's good enough, right? And
Hold on. Have you not seen the Wing Commander movie?
It's a movie. What do you think?
Wait, honestly, for someone who doesn't watch movies, but you're a fan of this project, you should probably watch it just so you can get a sense of what, you know, what he has put out before and wonder why he's hesitant to put out this product now.
Yeah, didn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't that one flop pretty hard?
Oh, it's on the list, I think, of all-time great flops. And when you watch it, like, there's no redeeming that movie.
Yeah. I do want to add a quick point real quick. Sorry to cut you off, Tamm.
No, go ahead.
Just redirecting on Squadron 42 itself a little bit. We are at a point in development where I'm not sure I think it's necessarily Chris being a perfectionist at this point. I think the main thing that's going to hold back Squadron 42 is, as far as we can tell, there are a lot of signs that seem to be pointing towards them wanting to launch on console, PS5, Xbox, whatever. And so getting the game to perform in a state satisfactory enough for a console is probably the challenge they're facing right now. And so it could very well be that right now the game just isn't hitting the targets it's supposed to. There was a game, I don't remember what it was, that launched last year, I believe, on the PS5 that just was performing so badly that Sony had to pull it from the store. I could see that reasonably happening with Squadron 42 if it doesn't perform well enough. Just like bug-free and FPS-wise.
Well, even I mean, because reputation wise, it has a pretty hefty reputation behind it. And a lot of that not in a positive way. And I mean, like you look at games like High Guard, for example, where it's like it was a legitimately decent game, with good gameplay, and a lot of people barely played the thing. And High Guard was compared to Concord, which we just mentioned was one of those games. But High Guard is a game that came out this year, and like a lot of people barely played it or didn't play it and just left shitty reviews all over it, calling it AI slop and whatever. And it's like, you didn't even play the fucking game. Like, the game is legitimately fun and you didn't even touch it, and yet you shafted the game by review bombing it across the board, and then it closed, I think for this to be like, Chris's masterpiece, I do think that there is stuff from his end tied up into this, like not just from the perfectionist, but like he was given essentially infinite money. I mean, $1 billion to make his dream game. Here we are, deliver your dream game. And if that fails for any reason, that's like, I think that's more than just a professional hit to him. I think that's a personal hit to him in terms of what he can craft and whatnot. I'm guessing. This is just guessing. I haven't talked to Chris. Hey, Chris, buddy, how you feeling about it? Haven't done that. But that would just be my thought in terms of, because I mean, I'm sure there are other people involved with, if there is a delay, the delays, right? Whether it's perfecting console experience, whether it's marketing going, hey, dude, this is not going to be a good launch because GTA, and we have to give GTA a solid 2-year bubble, I don't know. But I do think that there's a pretty solid Chris component, if I had to guess.
I mean, I guess there you do have to ask yourself, at what point does further delay become kind of inexcusable, right?
How?
I mean, I think I agree. I think that's where I'm driving at here is like, again, I have to have the right perspective because I have not been around the game all that long, but I do think even just in a short period of time, the tone around people being upset with this seems to be very different to me. I think because at some point you're going to cross the line from, like one of the most successful fundraising initiatives for like an independently created and funded video game to a game that has taken the longest in history to develop, but still isn't out. And like, what are you gonna get out? At some point, yeah. I think after all the previous delays, then the CitizenCon with the big 2026, that Zip and I were at. I think blowing this window is gonna cost them something. I don't know if it's gonna cost them money because it seems to be there's no end in sight for that pool, but it's gonna something somewhere.
Well, I think the big thing is the one thing holding Star Citizen and Squadron 42 back is breaking into the general gaming audience. And another delay, especially after hitting that $1 billion mark, that's only going to cement further the current perception that people have towards the project as a whole. And so I think the main consequence might be that they just don't break into the general gaming community in the way that they want to.
I think Squadron is kind of an interesting and relatively unique thing because like this podcast, the three of us, we're not here because of Squadron. Like we play Star Citizen. And not to say that we won't play Squadron, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think like Squadron releases tomorrow and it's an amazing game. I don't think we're going to go and play that and that as our primary for the next 6 months and only rarely dip into Star Citizen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we'll play it assuming we like it. But I mean, like there's plenty of people in our group. I mean, like Vegan, the only reason Vegan wants to play it at all is if there's anything that gives him a bonus or something in Star Citizen, right?
Yeah, he's got to unlock stuff in Star Citizen.
I think that's going to be the main reason a lot of people play.
I mean, I look forward to, because the Star Citizen world is really interesting and there's a lot of really cool shit in there. And so having something that gives us a more complete experience in terms of that world and that envisioned setting, I think is something that I'm actually excited to see, because the current Star Citizen game, like, yes, it's free to do a lot of what you want, but it's a lot more shallow than a curated experience has the potential for, if that makes sense. And obviously a curated experience has the potential for perceived depth, but being pretty narrow with that depth because it's curated, right? But anyway, I'm just saying that, like, I feel like they're in kind of a weird spot, because a lot of the people who are actually interested in Squadron from the Star Citizen community already have it. Like, it's been sold for what, 12 of the 14 years that the game's been in existence. Like, a lot of the people who are interested in that already have the game, right? So that doesn't represent future sales. And obviously they could do like, oh, here's a special version bundle, whatever. But generally speaking, most of the existing backers who would be interested in that probably already have it. And just a guess. And a lot of people in the wild have never even heard of Star Citizen. And like maybe they've heard of like Scam Citizen or something like that in passing, but that's not, like, if CIG does a really fast release cycle, right? Like they do, I don't know, like, oh, by the way, this is coming out a month from now, boom, release date trailer, and then like bunch of hype, and then boom, there's the game, right? Something like that, for somebody who like really doesn't know anything about Star Citizen, that could get them on board, even in spite of like the history of the project, pretty easily, in my opinion, right? And so like you'd have a pretty good way to hook randoms into the game, and those randoms don't give a shit if there's a delay, right? Like we do, but I already own the game. So again, going back to marketing may not give a shit if I care about the delay, because, like, what are you going to do? You going to stop buying ships? Like, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting situation that we're in, which is where I'd really like for them to just say, yeah, we're still on track, or nah, sorry, man, we're not, and that's where Witty's point about the potential pushback, coming, because like they haven't said anything. So it's like, well, once we've confirmed we have your money, then we're going to tell you, fuck off, it's not coming yet.
I'll be honest.
I feel like there's a lot of credence there, because we're not their main audience in terms of new money, and marketing's running everything, it seems like.
If they do pull the kind of move where it's like clearly after the 30-day refund period for the most recent sale, then they push the delay, that might be enough for me to, I'd probably unsubscribe at that point.
What are you going to do about it, Zip?
Stop spending money. It's pretty simple.
All right. So June 24th is exactly 30 calendar days from May 25th. I'm not going to count the finale days.
Okay.
That's the date to circle on the calendar.
Okay. I swear to God, if it happens on the date, I'm going to be pissed. You'd think they'd be a little more strategic and be like, okay, give it a week after, just so there's some plausible fucking deniability there.
Yeah. I doubt it'll actually happen on that date, because that is too obvious. I think if if you don't hear anything before that point, I think that's a pretty big indicator.
That being said, if they are going for a Gamescom reveal, we may actually just not hear anything until August.
Which
I'm not saying it's likely. I do think it is possible. That's probably the hopium still inside, but whatever.
But even so, okay. So here's the thing, right? They see the community foaming at the mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It like how hard is it for literally anyone, Jared, John, anyone, Chris, to fucking just Spectrum, Reddit, somewhere, and just be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, still coming this year."
That's the thing. You don't have to do a full announcement. You don't have to tell everyone what the exact plan is. I think all you would need to say to put down all of the rumors and innuendo at this point is we are still on track, or nothing has changed. Nothing has changed from our perspective. I don't know where certain social media personalities have gotten their information. I don't know, the basis for some of these, points of view or complaints related to Squadron's timeline, but nothing has changed from our end. I don't know. That's not a hard thing to say.
Yeah. And that's, yeah. And that's where, like, I think if they did put out something like that, I think there'd be a lot of credence to it because we're close enough that makes sense. It's just that the fact that they haven't, because they could say that, and I don't think that would disturb anybody refunding anything. Like, you're not saying anything other than, hey, rumors are fake and we're still on track. That's it. Like, you don't have to give details. You don't have to, like, yeah, I don't know.
The big thing
and I was hoping
me,
what was it, Games Fest or whatever? I was hoping that they'd have something in that.
Summer Games Fest?
Yeah, I wasted, like, what was it, like 2 hours of my life watching all those stupid videos. And it's just like, okay, well, it's not there. Can't believe I sat in front of, I don't even remember what, I think my phone. I had my phone, like, volume almost all the way down. Like, yeah, You're like, is that one it? No, okay. Like, it was great. And then there was nothing.
Well, so. I do think this is probably me just being more conspiratorial, but like, I'm assuming the Summer Games Fest had their whole lineup and trailers set up many months in advance, right? So if CIG wasn't going to be revealing, I don't think there would have been a situation where they would, be pulling out last minute. So during the time when they were saying that Squadron 42 was planned for this year, they would have already known that they're not going to be at the Summer Games Fest, right? Which might point to them intending to reveal at some other venue.
Maybe. I mean, I guess it's probably easier to back out of something like that than it is to get in at the last minute. Because, it's an art project, right? Things get delayed in development all the time. So I'm sure there's precedent for a developer who says, actually, we're not ready for that. We need to back out.
Yeah. And we wouldn't know if that did happen because they're not going to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although the likelihood of, given all the noise around this game, of nobody involved with the Summer Games Fest leaking something like that, being like, oh, they actually backed out. That seems minimal to me. And so I take your point as correct that they were probably never on the lineup to begin with. Not that they backed out the last minute. All right. So listen, I think we've beat that horse into a bloody pulp. I feel better. I don't know about you guys, but but I do think if post June 24th there is a sudden announcement about a delay, I think that may be. I mean, actually, I've already kind of stopped putting. I've already got to stop putting any new money into this. I think the only one I did recently was I did everything on credit, so I really haven't pumped new money into it.
I did end up buying an M80 war bond, but I like that ship. That's okay. On a positive note, I love the M80. It's a great ship. That's like the one good thing I can talk about. So
listen, I'm not like put off of the product in its entirety. Like, there are lots of things that I consume where I'm not 100% on board with the way the company behind them operates. I feel like I would like for CIG to get out of their own way here and to stop giving ammunition to people who want this to fail for whatever reason. And but I would also like for people who are, and I know the community is not a monolith, so I'm not describing like a single group, but I would like people who are involved in this, who play the game, who contribute money to it, to be a little more critical and a little, and have some fucking respect for yourselves. Like demand more from people that you give money to. Like, we are the buyer, they are the seller. Like, make them sell you something of value for what you're giving them in terms of your dollars. Stop being so apologetic for what they're not providing to you. I see so many people who are so quick to come up with excuses for why this is the way it is. Well, they're developing 2 games, actually. Who the fuck told them to develop 2 games? No one said you had to develop 2 games. Like, oh, well, they have to make all this new technology. Why? Who said to make new technology? Use old technology. You don't have to do all these hard things and then pat yourself on the back for it. And then also use that as an excuse for why you can't get it done. Like, I think, Tamm, you've been saying this for a long time. Like, the game is an alpha when they need it to be an alpha. And it is a live playable game when they need it to be live and playable. Whichever one gets them what they need at that moment. Like, make them pick a lane and then hold them accountable based on that. If it's an alpha, then it's an alpha. And nothing should cost $800 with a price bump when you can't step into the ship without dying. Like, credit where it's due to the teams that designed it. The Ironclad is a really cool fucking ship. Looks great. The idea is great. It's for a Drake ship. It is slick as fuck. But it literally is unplayable. And I wanted to pivot on that note to anything else about 4.8 that is not related to CIG's administrative woes. I was not having a great time when I tried to be on last time. It was buggy, hard to play. And then talking about confluences of factors here, for all that shitstorm to collide at the same time that you introduce a massive change to the way you claim ships and pay for that, like insurance, was not a huge fan of that at the time. So hopefully some of that pain has eased. I have to get back on and get back to making money so I can afford to claim ships sometimes. But again, need the game to be working better. But you've been on, right, Zip? Like, is it what's going on?
The past couple times I've been on, it's been kind of hard, at least for me, to be motivated to hop on. But when I have been on with the other guys, they have been running into bugs consistently, whether it's docking issues, jumping. Just, it seems like it's a fight every time I hop on. People just trying to do basic things. I don't think it's quite a 318 level of unplayable, but it's certainly not fun right now.
I've seen a lot of people compare it to 318, and that feels a little bit, hyperbolic, but
318 was something else. So, but that doesn't excuse the current state of playability at all. Just because it was worse at one point, it's still bad right now, and they need to fix it.
Just because it was worse at one point. Hey, at least it's not 318. That's the mantra going around Manchester.
Well, people
right
actually
now.
say that, like, seriously, like, you don't get a right to complain. I was there at 318. It's like, shut the fuck up. I can complain.
Always the Olympics of suffering.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, you have people who are saying that it's like categorically unplayable, and it's not categorically unplayable. It is playable. Like, you can't use certain ships, and there are certain features and aspects that don't work very well, and so on and so forth. Like, there's a pretty solid amount of bugs, and they just wasted a bunch of time doing a bug fix that didn't seem to fix a lot of bugs that people are having, so on and so forth, right? But it's not 318, it's and so for the people who are rolling around like screaming that they can't play the game at all, it's like there have been people who had like the shard lock issue, for example, where it's like, okay, they actually couldn't play the game. But that's not most people. Most people, to my knowledge and understanding and experience, you can play the game. It may not be as well as you want, but it is playable.
I mean, so if you're one of those shard lock people, that is basically the equivalent to 318, isn't it?
Yeah. But sure. they theoretically fixed that. So it's,
Yeah, you had a personal 318, I'm sorry.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm hoping they do another round of bug fixes. Personal gripe. I mean, a lot of people have this, but not probably a high priority. But I really hope they change or fix that the refueling notification bug, where you've got the thing on your side and you can't get any pop-ups. It's so irritating. Hoping they do some more bug fixes, fix the ironclad, fix the plethora of other things. We've got, I think, Alien Week a week from this Wednesday. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but pretty quick with another 2 or 3 ships. So,
oh, good. There's another sale coming up. We wouldn't want to miss that.
Yep. Yeah. And the Ryland's one of them, and it's $225 right now, and it's a pretty sizable alien ship. I expect that one to get a good bump, especially with how marketing's been doing things recently. So
$550.
Suddenly all is forgiven and people are spending their money again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't care if Squadron's delayed. I don't care if the ironclad works. I don't care if I can dock. I don't care if I can refuel. I don't care if hangars eat my ship. But just get that fucking refueling notification off the side of my screen so that I can get party invites again.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It refreshes every time you die, and I think there was some other parameter. So like I had one night I had it reestablish itself like 5 times, and I'm just like, bro, because you forget about it. You just don't think about it, and then it's just like, oh, I shared the mission. I'm like, can you share it again? I didn't get it, and they're like, yeah, I did. I'm like, oh fuck, and then you like do it, and then you're sitting there watching all the invites for like this person joined the party. I'm like, okay, well that was an hour ago, so I guess we're just like I
think I spent 20
so
minutes waiting for a mission share just because I had notification after notification waiting for it to clear. It sucked.
Yeah, we need a better way. The game needs a better way for notifications to be handled. Period. Than those little cards popping up. But all right, guys, I feel like this was a good therapy session. Anything to add to close this out? Closing thoughts.
It'll get better. Maybe. Those are bold words.
I look forward to seeing what happens, because I feel like we're on a little bit of like a
inflection.
I don't want to say a precipice, but like there's a lot of room for a lot of things to happen in the near future, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I don't think it's overly dramatic to say that this year is a critical one for CIG. Like all of the celebration, and maybe this is also part of why they have to be very measured in their communications about this point of the $1 billion threshold, will be completely overshadowed by just the dunking on them of missing this deadline in that same year. That's my take. So please don't miss the deadline. I want to play the game, and I want it to work. That's my closing thought. And it's a lot to ask for, but it is what it is.
It's okay. We'll play GTA and it'll be okay.
Ugh, I don't even want to play GTA.
That's why, but it's a released game.
It's not. I know, right? I can go into a store and buy it. All right, Zip. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, I realize we kind of have become somewhat I don't want to say pessimistic, but I think it's pretty justified. I do hope things will get better. I'm not going to bet my life on it, but we'll see where it goes.
All right. All right. We'll see. Justifiable pessimism. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, guys. Thanks for hopping on. And we will catch everybody in the next one.
Bye.